And guys, just a heads up for you, we did get KU back, so we've got some visuals now.
Yeah. Right now. That's my tether here. Okay, I have that white purple on 0344 on the top of the orange white, and my tether's clear. And it's clear the, well clear of the CBM.
Okay, we copy that. It is stowed on top of the white-orange cable, and it is clear. Those all sound like good checks. When you're ready, give me a grab and hap check.
Okay. Hap is unchanged. The gloves look good.
Okay, my hap is unchanged, and my gloves good.
All right, copy on both. So, Scott, we show you complete with the white-purple cable, so if you want to work your way back to IDA bag Bravo, and we'll start working the yellow cable.
Okay.
105 is secured with 3 twists, and next is
stovepipe.
In the gully here. Stovepipe, that's the word. Thank you.
As Tim Kopra works to route an Ethernet cable along pressurized mating adapter number 1 at the connecting point of the U.S. and Russian segments of the International Space Station. This for the future arrival of a Russian laboratory module. Scott Kelly is in place as he works to resume activity that he began back on November 6th to route a series of cables down the Harmony module of the International Space Station for the future arrival of U.S. commercial crew vehicles once international docking adapters are attached at 2 points along the forward portion of the Harmony module and at the zenith portion of the Harmony module. That's where the pressurized mating adapters will be located to accommodate the installation of these 2 international docking adapters to be launched on SpaceX vehicles in the future.
Making sure the wire ties are loose because when you're coming from aft to forward, you're going to be pulling all the slack through with you.
Okay.
Look ahead, so I took the right stovepipe. Is which one?
And I'm sorry, Tim, you didn't come through there. Which stovepipe are you looking for? Is that the question?
So I'm at the stovepipe. I'm just trying to make sure I pick the right one. What's the handrail that follows the stovepipe?
Okay, stand by.
Here in Mission Control, 1 hour and 15 minutes into this spacewalk today by Kelly and Kopra, the robotics officer. Laura Lucier reports that all of the work associated with the mobile transporter relocation onto Worksite 4, its latching, and its electrical mating now complete, and that the mobile transporter is on station systems power distribution. Everything looking good with the mobile transporter that was moved just a few inches, 4 inches, from a stalled position back to worksite 4, where it is now latched in place. Everything in preparedness now for the arrival of the Progress 62 resupply ship on Wednesday morning.
If that helps. If not, I'll try and give you some other landmarks.
Okay. Yes, it's okay. If you help know what the next handrail is, and then I can go back and get that one to make sure it's aligned correctly.
Okay, I copy with you. So the next one is actually TA clamp 7.
Okay, TA clamp 7, thank you.
Yeah, and so that's going to be near handrails 006 and 0008.
Copy, I'm right there.
And gentlemen, just to let you know as well, we've restored Keep Alive power to all the robotics equipment, so everything's looking good.
Excellent.
And will a Wi-Fi be required if I could put the cable through the TA clamp and secure it?
And Tim, your comm is coming in very weak, so I don't know if you can move the mic booms a little bit, but...
How about now? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's a little bit better, so can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. What I'd like to know is, can I put the cable through the TA clamp, TA7, and secure it instead of the wire tie, or would you like the wire tie as well?
Okay, stand by, I'm checking. Okay, Tim, you can do it either way, so you can go through TA7 and use that or use the wire tie, your choice.
Copy that, thanks. I think I got my safety tethers like around one of my legs. Trying to free it up. I don't know if you can see that on a...
Yeah, Scott, we can't see...
On video.
Yeah, we can't see right now very well, but...
Let me just take a minute here to try to fix this. No, it's not around my leg, which is good. It's in front of me. I think it's just around my mini workstation.
Okay, copy that. So you're in a good config?
Yeah, let me try to clean it up a little bit.
Okay.
Well, Tim Kopra wraps up work on the routing of an Ethernet cable for the future launch of a Russian laboratory module along pressurized mating adapter number 1. Scott Kelly has completed the final 20 feet of routing of one of 2 cables down the length of the Harmony module of the International Space Station that will accommodate the installation of international docking adapters for U.S. commercial crew vehicle arrivals in the future. He's now working on a second cable, about a 71-foot cable, that will similarly be routed down the length of the Destiny Laboratory to the Harmony module, where it will be tied off.
Handrail, so over towards where you picked up the purple, you should see it a little further aft.
Okay.
Kelly and Kopra, just 1 hour 22 minutes into today's spacewalk, making quick work of several get-ahead tasks.
On the bag.
Okay.
Those get-ahead tasks coming in the wake of the successful relocation by a few inches of the mobile transporter rail car that was stranded just to the starboard side of its intended worksite 4, due to the likely inadvertent placement of a brake handle on the starboard crew equipment translation cart, one of 2 such carts that flank the mobile transporter. Kelly and Kopra, once outside of the Quest airlock earlier today, released those brake handles, and that freed up the movement of the mobile transporter to be commanded back to worksite 4, where it is now latched in place with electrical power having been routed back to that rail car. All of this work in advance of the arrival of the Progress 62 cargo ship that will dock to the International Space Station's Piers docking compartment at 4:31 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday. It launched just about 5.5 hours ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Less than 9 minutes after launch, it was placed into its preliminary orbit, separating from the upper stage of the Soyuz booster that gave it its ride to orbit. Its solar arrays and navigational antennas deployed as planned, and 2 rendezvous burns were executed to send the Progress on the initial phase of its 2-day rendezvous, in which upgraded systems will be tested, systems that will be incorporated in all future Progress and piloted Soyuz vehicles.
The other half stays in the bag.
That's right. The other coil will stay in the bag, and then actually once you get this temp stowed, we'll come back and get that other coil and go aft.
Okay. This just pull out. I don't have to undo any wire ties, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So you should be able to take that coil up to 287, temp stow it there, and then there should be a wire tie that'll say 286 that will have you, that should be in between the coil and the bag that will have you wire tie down.
Okay.
This the helmet camera view from Scott Kelly in his 3rd spacewalk, as he plays out a final length of cable, about a 71-foot cable down the length of the Destiny Laboratory in the Harmony module, where it will be tied off. One of 2 such cables that will ultimately be used for the installation and hookup of international docking adapters to be launched on SpaceX vehicles in the future, and to accommodate the arrival of U.S. commercial crew vehicles.
I'm on 287.
Okay, so you can temp stow it there with the taped wire tie, but you don't need to release any excess cable at this point.
Okay.
And just so you know, we're about a minute and a half from a quick 20-second handover.
How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good. I've got it secured on the TA clamp 7, And I've managed to use my own wire tie to secure the pitch for the stovepipe.
Okay, copy that. You used your own wire tie for the stovepipe. So both stovepipe and TA7 clamp are complete, and the next is you're looking for handrail 0010, which is just nadir of the crane.
Copy that. I'm still working on the stovepipe. TA clamp is complete.
Okay, copy.
Hey, Hop, there are two wire ties with, I don't know what you mean by tape exactly. There's one that says, I don't see anyone that has this handrail number. Or this is just temp stow, right?
That's correct. So any wire tie there, we just don't want you to release any coils. And again, we got about 30 seconds here before handover.
Okay.
Okay, guys, we're back with you from the handover. We don't have KU right now, so we don't have video, and you've got about 5 minutes from daylight.
All right. Copy. Okay, now I'm going to get the other half out.
Not yet, Scott. First, as you're going back, you should...
Of the bag, Hopper?
Yeah, Scott, before you get to the bag, you should see a point on the cable labeled handrail 0286. And at that point, you want to use that orange cable wire tie to wire tie the yellow cable down there.
Okay, I got to go back there then.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. So a lab handrail 0286 label on this yellow cable.
That's correct. And then at that point, you should be able just to stick it in. Yeah, you should be able just to, there should be an orange wire tie there that has that same handrail 0286 on it. So just use that to tie down the yellow cable at that point.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. I got
it. On the yellow cable, it's just actually marked on the cable itself.
Yeah.
An hour and a half into today's spacewalk by Scott Kelly and Tim Kopra, the International Space Station flying 253 miles over Melbourne, Australia, moving from northwest to southeast in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. Tim Kopra is wrapping up work on a get-ahead task of routing an Ethernet cable for the future arrival of a Russian laboratory module, while Scott Kelly is working on the second of two sets of cables, routing them down the length of the Harmony module to be wire-tied in place and tied off that will accommodate the future installation of international docking adapters for the arrival of U.S. commercial crew vehicles. All this work, get-ahead work, coming in the wake of the major task of this unplanned spacewalk that was put together in just a few days to successfully relocate the mobile transporter rail car back onto its worksite 4 near the center section of the station's truss, after it stalled just starboard of the worksite last Wednesday night as it was being moved to a different worksite for robotic payload operations. The movement of the rail car back to worksite 4, where it is now latched in place, receiving electrical power, was deemed necessary as a cautionary measure before the arrival of the Progress 62 cargo ship and its docking to the Pier's docking compartment on Wednesday. That Progress Resupply craft having launched 5.5 hours ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan.
Is there a 6-8 that's further forward? It's... Let me look at the cables some more here. I got a 0226, a 0268.
Okay, Scott, so you may see the mark a little bit further aft towards the bag.
Okay, I'll go look.
Okay. And guys, for both of you, just want to let you know, we're going to come up on a period of about 5 minutes here of Radicom.
Copy. Okay, I got that one. Hop 0286.
Okay, perfect. So if you could just put that mark on the cable and that orange wire tie, that'd be great.
Doesn't quite make it to the orange, but it's on the handrail, so it's probably close enough.
Concur. And
like at the middle of the handrail. Okay.
That sounds great. And for Tim, are you still working the stovepipe?
Stovepipe is complete. I'm at 0010, and I should have that tied down shortly with an integral wire tie.
Okay, copy that. Yeah, and you'll just, the rest of the bundle, you'll coil restrain there in that wire tie.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, now I go back to the bag and get the other end.
That's affirmative, and it should say node 1 coil, and you'll have to release wire ties as you go for this one to get the cable length.
Okay.
This is Mission Control Houston, 1 hour 34 minutes into today's spacewalk. Scott Kelly and Tim Kopra working on get-ahead tasks of routing cables. Kopra completing the work to route an Ethernet cable for a Russian laboratory module to be launched in the years ahead. Scott Kelly working in concert to route the second of a pair of cables down the length of the Destiny Lab and the Harmony module for the future arrival of U.S. commercial crew vehicles that will dock to international docking adapters to be launched on SpaceX vehicles in the forthcoming years. Earlier today, about 5 hours and 35 minutes ago, at 2:44 a.m. Central Time, another launch occurred, this one from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, the launch of a Progress Resupply vehicle to the International Space Station. First stage up to flight speed. 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 60-second Progress resupply vehicle from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, headed on a 2-day rendezvous to test upgraded systems en route to the International Space Station. All the first stage engines reported to be functioning normally by the blockhouse in Baikonur 40 seconds into the flight. The vehicle stabilization is reported to be normal. About 1 minute into the flight, the Soyuz booster and the Progress resupply vehicle will go through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. Pitch, roll, and yaw, everything looking good on the vehicle. Passing now through maximum dynamic pressure, going supersonic. 1 minute, 18 seconds into the flight. Liftoff time, right on time at 2:44 and 39 seconds a.m. Central Time.
And that should get you down to handrail 0245.
Again, that was a replay of the launch of the Progress 62 cargo craft that occurred at 2:44 a.m. Central Time, 2:44 p.m. at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, as the resupply ship, loaded with 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 46 crew, embarked on a 2-day journey to test out modified systems, a deliberate 2-day journey plotted out by the Russian flight control team, headed for a docking to the International Space Station's Pirs docking compartment on Wednesday at 4:31 a.m. Central Time, a docking that will be seen live here on NASA television. In the meantime, Kelly and Kopra continue work on laying out cables as they proceed on with a modest amount of get-ahead tasks in the wake of the relocation of the mobile transporter rail car from a stalled position 4 inches away from a work site back to the work site in the middle of the station's truss, where it is now latched in place, receiving electrical power through station systems.
And again, just as a reminder, you'll take that cable over the cable bag and over the slide wire.
Okay. Over the cable bag.
Yeah, you can just take it.
Which, the cable bag?
That you're on, yeah. You don't have to worry about trying to pass it under, I guess, basically is what I'm telling you.
Okay.
And Scott, that's your gap spanner.
Yep.
In the aftermath of the relocation of the mobile transporter back onto Worksite 4, where it is latched in place, receiving power from station systems, the robotics officer here in Mission Control reports that both the Canadarm2 robotic arm and the special purpose dexterous manipulator, the Dexter robotic mechanism, are both in great shape, receiving keep alive power. And she is involved, Laura Lucier, the robotics officer, involved in just a few cleanup tasks, her work having been completed for the day.
Yeah, there's a wire tie there at handrail 0245, and there's no label on the yellow cable. You just want to put it in there.
Okay. And then 0239 will be further down.
Yeah, well, it's just it's just aft there. And we're 20 seconds from another handover. Okay, guys, we're back with you after the handover. Tim, whenever you finish up there, we'll look for a glove and a half check from you.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to pretty up the connector cover.
And Tim, you were breaking up there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that I'm spending a little bit more time on the booty to get it flush.
Okay, we copy.
Kopra wrapping up work on the routing of that Ethernet cable along pressurized mating adapter number 1. The crossroads, if you will, between the U.S. and Russian segments of the International Space Station.
Pre-existing wire tie on 0245.
Okay, we copy.
Kopra's final planned get-ahead task will be the retrieval of 2 spacewalking tools that are housed on the outside of the International Space Station, required for a future spacewalk that will involve the deployment of several cameras on the truss of the International Space Station. Scott Kelly, meanwhile, continues to play out a 71-foot cable, the second of 2 sets of cables, down the length of the U.S. segment of the station to a final tethering point on the Harmony module of the International Space Station that will be used in the installation of international docking adapters in the future.
Well, I guess that's...
On 239?
Yeah, it doesn't quite reach 239. I'll try to pull it through a little bit. It's close.
Okay, copy that. And you should be looking for a, is it a white-orange label wire tie, handrail 0239?
Yeah, I can use that one, or there's... The cable itself has a 239 wire tie. It was like the one that kind of kept most of the cable together.
Okay.
That's just a little bit further away.
Yeah, whichever one is...
I would say that 239, the 239 mile marker is closer to the aft part of handrail 245.
Okay, Scott, we copy that. Yeah, we'll take your best effort there. And because remember, we were going to be pulling slack back forward anyway, so hopefully that'll still give us enough room to get to the node 1 end cone.
Okay.
And again, I'm just going to give you another reminder here. Make sure that safety tether is looking good.
Yeah, I keep looking at it. You know, it's kind of hard to tell, actually, but I think it's good. Yeah, I keep looking at it, and you know, I see the. You know, I'm going to run back there and check, actually, just to make absolutely certain.
Okay.
I'll keep going.
Again, this view from Scott Kelly's helmet camera, 1 hour, 47 minutes into today's spacewalk. Tim Kopra has wrapped up work with the multi-purpose laboratory module Ethernet cable, another get-ahead task.
Z1 toolbox.
And this is the view from Tim Kopra's helmet camera.
That's it.
As the International Space Station flies 253 statute miles over the South Pacific.
MMOD damage, you might find some sharp edges, so keep on the lookout for that.
Cool.
Yeah, Scott, that safety tether looks good to us.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I can't quite see all the way up there, but so you can see right next to the bag.
Yeah, pull it one more time for us, Scott, and we'll take a look.
In this view from Scott Kelly's camera, looking down the U.S. segment of the International Space Station,
I'm going to go up there and take a look.
you received a glimpse of both the European Space Agency's Columbus module and the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency's Kibo module.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Okay, copy that. And you can close that bag up now if you want. I think we've got everything out of it.
Yeah. You want me to do that now, or you want me to do that
Good
later?
call. It looked like it was in your way, so if you wanted to do it now.
Yeah. I'll do it later. Okay, then along handrail 023.
Okay, so
Actually, I need to go under that gap spanner, right? That goes off of 0232.
that's affirmative, yeah. So you should be following the other cables under the gap spanner, or between the gap spanner and station. And then you're going to be translating to the node 1 forward end cone.
Okay.
As Scott Kelly continues work on laying out these cables associated with the future installation of international docking adapter installations.
Hey, Scott, give us a wave in the cupola.
Okay.
Kelly pausing to accommodate Tim Peake's request for a photo opportunity, peek inside the cupola of the International Space Station. Tim Kopra now moving toward the Z1 truss area of the International Space Station, right above the S0 truss, or the middle point of the truss structure, the backbone of the station, to retrieve two spacewalking tools from a toolbox that's located there. that will be used on a future spacewalk outside the International Space Station associated with the installation of new truss cameras.
I'm at that MPRV here.
Okay, copy. Next handrail, when you get down to the incline, you're looking for 0133, and you can BRT to that if you'd like to help you with these cable or these connectors.
You want me to wire tie it to 0218?
Not yet. We're going to go ahead and do connectors first. So a warning here, if the connectors are thermally hot, we want to limit your contact to less than 2.5 minutes. And then we want to make sure we avoid contact with the Cygnus thrusters and the CBM pedals down there.
Okay.
All right, so Scott, you're looking for the P603 to J603 connection on the...
Okay, let me find that first. And what's the good BRT handrail?
0133 is what we have written down here. And that's a Node 1 handrail.
Yeah.
And you're looking for a J603, which should be the label on the Node 1.
Yeah, I see it here. It's the third of the group. There's a 605, a 604, and a 603.
Okay, copy that. And the cable that's connected to it should be a Whiskey 10709er.
Spacewalk communicator Mike Hopkins here in Mission Control continues to assist Scott Kelly as he works through the laying out of the second of two sets of cables down the length of the Harmony module to a connecting point that will be used for the future installation of international docking adapters for U.S. commercial crew vehicle arrivals. The crew began their spacewalk at 6:45 a.m. Central Time, 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time, some 25 minutes ahead of schedule. And at this point, approaching the 2-hour mark, the two crew members are some 14 to 15 minutes ahead of the timeline in terms of elapsed time since the start of the spacewalk.
Okay, copy that. So, kind of the sequence. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say, I've got the scoot B-handle combo and heading back. Anything else you want me to do here?
Standby 1, we'll check.
Okay.
Tim, you've gotten everything back there, so if you could just give us another quick glove check because of all the sharp edges up there, we'd appreciate it before you head back.
Yeah, sure. My gloves are in the same condition. They're good.
Okay, head back to the airlock.
Copy.
Tim Kopra has retrieved a pair of tools from a toolbox along the Z1 truss of the International Space Station, and now will make his way back to the Quest airlock, where they will be stowed for the time being.
Cap back onto the Whiskey 10709.
Okay. Okay, understand. Safing is complete, and I'm going to demate P603 from J603.
And that's affirmative, Scott. You can demate 603 from J603.
Once Kopra stows these two spacewalking tools inside the Quest airlock, he will rejoin Scott Kelly along the Harmony module in the laying out of this 71-foot yellow cable, as it is called, the second of two sets of cables for the future installation of international docking adapters.
PC and CIA card seated firmly. Those are known to be finicky. So if you could remove and then firmly.
Okay, we copy that from Tim, that you saw some marks on the starboard toolbox, and for Scott, we copy your demated. So what you're going to want to do is ret to the cap on the yellow cable.
I'll go and reseat that.
Take that cap off.
Now.
Houston copies, thanks.
Ready.
Okay, you can go ahead and remove the cap. Check for FOD, bent pins, good EMI band.
The pins look good. EMI band looks good, no FOD.
Okay, you have a go to connect that yellow cable to the J603.
Copy.
And just check the J603 as well for any kind of FOD. And for Tim, once you get back to the airlock, you're a go ahead and take that scoop and D handle as well as the crew lock bag and get them inside the airlock.
Okay, sounds good.
No FOD in the female connector. It looks good.
Okay, you're go to connect.
Information on 2. And for the SSC task, I've reseated that 1553, and that seems to go in firmly this time, and confirm I'm now going for the 1315 task.
Tim, we copy. We see a good end item on that 1553 card, and confirm you are go for the USB activity scheduled at 1315.
Copy, we'll take one.
Made it over center. Good pull test.
Okay, copy that. Now you want to take the cap and connect it to that Whiskey 10709 603 connector.
Uh-huh.
And Houston Station on 2, that's complete. Do have 2 green LEDs on 0, 1, and 2.
Okay, made it over center. Looks good.
Copies.
Okay, excellent. Now you can wire tie
and give you a call for part 2
that Whiskey 10709 to the Node 1 handrail 133, and then secure it with an adjustable.
Okay. And this one just kind of, it's sort of, it seems pretty, the old cable looks pretty secure here. It's got a wire tie on that handrail that's more vertical. Okay, so tell me the handrail you want the new cable wire tied and the adjustable too.
Actually, Scott, we're looking to wire tie that cable, the old cable, 10709 to handrail 133, and that should be the one you're BRT'd to.
Okay.
Just over 2 hours into today's spacewalk, a good view of Scott Kelly with the orbital ATK Cygnus resupply ship just over his head. That Cygnus attached to the Earth-facing port of the Unity module of the International Space Station following its successful launch. Kelly continues to play out a series of cables. He'll be assisted shortly by Tim Kopra to complete that work.
And then
the final get-ahead task in the wake of the major objective of this spacewalk having been completed, that being the relocation of the mobile transporter back onto its work site. It's latching in place. It is now electrically mated following the mobile transporter having stalled just a few inches away from its work site back on Wednesday night as it moved to another position on the truss of the International Space Station for payload operations. As a cautionary move, work began to put this unplanned spacewalk together under the direction of Lead Flight Director Royce Renfrew, who is leading the Orbit 2 team here in Mission Control today. Just a second from the right on your screen. The spacewalk was simple in nature, basically to check out the position of brake handles, the release of brake handles on two crew equipment carts that flanked the mobile transporter, that released it from its stalled position and allowed the robotics officer here in Mission Control to send commands that robotically moved the mobile transporter back onto worksite 4, right at the center section of the truss of the International Space Station, where it could be latched in place in a cautionary move in advance of the arrival of the ISS Progress 62 cargo ship that launched to the International Space Station from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan just over 6 hours ago.
Okay, that wire ties on the old cable.
Okay, now let's take one of your adjustables off your mini workstation. You can put one of the hooks can go to the bail lever, and then the other hook can go to a stanchion on the handrail.
Which?
So you can,
of the old.
Yeah, that's correct. Right? Yeah. So take a hook off an adjustable onto that bail lever, the old one, and then take it to a stanchion.
Okay.
And this view from the helmet camera of Tim Kopra inside the crew lock section of the Quest airlock as he stows these two tools that he retrieved from a toolbox along the truss of the International Space Station. Those tools being stowed for future use on a future spacewalk in which new cameras will be installed on the truss of the complex.
It's supposed to fit, and it's not. You want it on the bail lever, not the back, right?
That's fine. We talked about the bail lever.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to try it another way here.
And at this point, Scott, whatever, however you can get it around that cable or the bail lever will work.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to fit on there. I don't know if you can see that in my helmet camera.
Yeah,
I don't want to break it.
I can see it there. Can you get it around the cable?
How about right on the cable? Yeah, it's around the cable.
That looks good. Yep.
Okay. And the other end just around the handrail and back onto itself?
Or you can just take it right to the stanchion of the handrail and just cinch it down.
Okay.
And what we're we're doing this for, Scott, is just to make sure it doesn't get loose into the CVM interface there.
Okay. All right, that's complete.
Okay, the next step for you is back on the yellow cable. On the lab handrail, you should see a 0218. There should be an existing long wire tie there, so we want to start bringing any of the slack of the yellow cable with you as you go forward.
Okay.
And Scott, before you take that off, if you can take any pictures there, that would be good as well.
Okay.
And Tim, we see that looks like both the crew lock bag and the scoop are inside.
That's correct.
Okay, I'd like you to check and make sure your safer handers are still down since you went inside the airlock there. And then we're going to have you...
Okay.
We'll have you go up over the lab to the IDA-B bag, and you can go ahead and retrieve that.
Sounds good. You have a recommended translation path?
I'm sorry, say again, Tim?
Do you have a recommended translation path?
Kind of the way you went, Tim, already.
Yeah, I just want to cover your line.
Oh, yeah. Well, as long as you go back... Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I think as long as you go to that bag and then leave before I get back to the bag.
Yeah.
And Tim, for you, you can go up the seat.
So I'm going to follow.
You can go up the seat spur and use the MT and come down the lab strut if that's easier for you at this point.
Yeah, it would be easier. Just to note, I will have to come back before Scott so that we don't get tangled.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that'll make sure we don't get tangled.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay, so
the MT is in a good configuration, and so you can use it for translation.
Sounds great.
That conversation involving approval for Scott Kelly to move across the area where the mobile transporter is now safely latched in place on worksite 4 near the center section of the truss of the International Space Station. Looking at the orbital ATK Cygnus resupply craft and its unique solar arrays, those ultra-flex solar arrays that provided power for Cygnus during its transit from the launch pad at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida to its berthing and its latching in place to the Earth-facing port of the Unity module of the International Space Station for its delivery mission. There's Tim Kopra at the bottom of your screen, having stowed a pair of spacewalking tools inside the Quest airlock, now moving to rejoin Scott Kelly as they head into the home stretch of the laying of cabling that will be used for the future installation of international docking adapters on the complex. We're now 2 hours, 10 minutes into the spacewalk.
And Tim, I know you're thinking about it, but just as a reminder, the TUS cable there.
Thank you. Appreciate the reminder.
Okay, next hopper. That wire tie is complete.
Okay, Scott, at this point, you're basically going to be taking the slack with you as you go back towards handrail 287.
Okay.
Yeah, and Tim, as you get over towards the bag itself, and you're probably seeing Scott's safety tether. If you could check any kind of QD booties and all that, make sure they're all connected and still secure over the QDs. We'd appreciate that as you start to get close to that bag.
Yeah, sure.
It has been a jam-packed day of activity on two fronts for the International Space Station. 6 hours and 12 minutes ago, the Baikonur Cosmodrome was the focus of attention as the Progress 62 cargo ship launched at 2:44 a.m. Central Time, 2:44 p.m. Baikonur time, en route to a two-day rendezvous that will deliver 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies to the Expedition 46 crew aboard the International Space Station.
Hey, Tim? Yeah. Don't release the top ones. Just stay right where you are. I'm going to release the bottom ones for you. And then if you go back up towards that handrail that's by your head, I can translate on the bag, I think, and then get back to where I need to go. And then these bottom ones will already have been released.
Okay. So,
As Scott Kelly directs Tim Kopra to move into a particular orientation, the two crew members, now 2 hours and 13 minutes into their spacewalk, completing work to route the second in a series of cables down the length of the Harmony module that will be used for the installation of international docking adapters in the future. Once the Progress was on its way, the spacewalk for Kelly and Kopra began at 6:45 a.m. Central Time, the major objective having been completed about 35 minutes after the beginning of the spacewalk, that being the movement, their release of brake handles on two crew equipment carts on either side of the mobile transporter rail car that stalled just a few inches away from Worksite 4, where it embarked on a transit last Wednesday night to reach a position for payload operations. The release of those brake handles, one of which on the starboard side had inadvertently engaged, enabled the free movement of the mobile transporter and the commanding by the robotics officer here in Mission Control to send commands that moved the mobile transporter back to Worksite 4, where it subsequently was latched in place and electrically mated.
Actually, I can get this one, too.
yeah, if you don't mind.
So if you're happy with the lid, I'll get one on the ESP, and then I'll go down and get this other one.
Sounds good.
At that point, the crew pressed ahead with several get-ahead tasks, Kopra opening a door at the S0 truss, within which a series of avionics boxes are located for remote power control modules, RPCMs as they are known, that part of the station power and distribution assembly system that will be the focus for future robotic replacement work when required, as the special purpose dexterous manipulator, or Dexter, will be used for the robotic replacement and retrieval of those orbital replacement unit boxes in the future. Kopra also completed the routing of an Ethernet cable for the future arrival of a Russian laboratory module, and now has joined Scott Kelly in the routing of these additional cables for future installation of international docking adapters.
Put this on the D-ring.
This get-ahead work made possible by the quick disposition of the relocation of the mobile transporter to its work site.
Just try to hold it still for a second. Okay.
All right, cool. All right, I will take the bag.
Okay.
And Tim, once you get the bag secured on your BRT, we're going to have you just kind of inspect around there, make sure you see any QDs and booties on it, make sure they all look good. For Scott, you're going to head back to that handrail 287, and you're going to pick up that other coil.
Okay.
That's a problem.
Oh, yeah, getting back up there now that we don't have the bag.
I didn't see that.
That's a good point. I could translate on ESP1, right?
Yeah, you can translate on that, Scott.
Actually, hey, Scott, here's what we could do. If you can just release my waist tether, I can get over there.
Okay, I don't see your waist tether.
So I'm going to attach it here, and then I'll just go and grab the other handrail.
I don't see your waist tether.
It's on the handrail adjacent to me. On my right hand.
Yeah, I'm kind of... Oh, I see what you're going to do. Yeah, well, I'm going to have to... Wait, don't do that.
Okay.
Let's do this, because I'm going to have to do the same kind of thing without that bag.
All right, cool.
So, here, give me your hand.
Let me try it again.
And then if you release your waist tether, I got you.
Cold trust.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then go to where you can grab that. Okay, now we just got to make sure my safety tether is not underneath your waist tether.
I agree.
So, but that's easy to fix.
Yeah, let me just get straight here.
Yeah. I think it kind of is.
That's easy fix. I just want to make sure that we keep our safety tether
absolutely. There. Yeah, bring my safety tether in front of you. It's kind of on your gauntlet. Okay. That looks good.
Well, to translate, and then I'll be able to get the bag.
Yeah, why don't you just take care of the bag, move out of the area, and then I'll do what I need to do.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so I can go ahead and leave now unless you've got something else for me.
Nope, I think you're good.
All right.
Take your waist tether with you, obviously.
Let me get this bag past you.
Now move. Am I in the way?
You're good now, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to get next to you.
There you go. Just watch my safety tether as you
You'll be clear of it here shortly, but that's great. Okay, you look good.
Excellent. Okay, Houston, I'm going to pull the slack. I'm at the cable bundle.
That's affirmative. So you're heading back to 0287 for that IDA2 coil, and we're now going to follow your friend, the white orange cable, over.
Okay. Where does the first wire tie go? On 226?
Yeah, so the first one is going to be 226, Scott.
Yeah.
And Scott, just a reminder for you, we're looking to pull all the excess slack with you as you go forward.
Okay.
You see the spur?
Copy, Tim. We see you. We're about a little over 3 minutes away from a handover. After that point, we're probably not going to have any good KU video for quite a while, about 20 minutes or so.
What's that? I'll put back the into the crew lock.
Okay, we see you back at the airlock. You can go ahead and take that IDA bag and put it inside.
Copy.
And the marker is right at the 226 on the cable, so in good shape.
Excellent. And their next marker, again, is going to be that same 330 wire tie as well.
Okay.
Tim, once you get that stowed, we don't have any other tasks for you, so you can just hang out there at the airlock until Scott finishes up. Just make sure you close the thermal cover.
Okay, we'll do.
This is Mission Control Houston, approaching the 2.5-hour mark in a spacewalk that was designed to be abbreviated, with the primary task of the crew assisting Kelly and Kopra, helping to position the mobile transporter rail car from a stranded position just a few inches away from its work site due to an inadvertent brake handle in the wrong position, to worksite 4, where it is now latched in place and electrically mated. That having been followed by several get-ahead tasks to route cabling, to open up a door covering orbital replacement units for the station's power and distribution systems that will one day be replaced by robotic use of the Dexter manipulator, and to retrieve a couple of tools from a toolbox on the outside of the station, which are now back inside the Quest airlock for future use on a spacewalk in which new cameras will be installed on the exterior of the International Space Station. The crew soon will be wrapping up its work, taking an inventory of its tools and making its way back into the Quest airlock to wrap up this spacewalk. We will remain on the air until they're safely inside, of course, until the repressurization of the Quest airlock begins to mark the official end of the spacewalk, and if downlink television permits, to watch the crew back inside the equipment lock section of Quest as they begin to doff their spacesuits to wrap up this 191st spacewalk in support of space station assembly and maintenance.
Cable up under everything.
We won't regain a downlink television capability from the International Space Station for about another 23 minutes or so. We'll continue to follow the wrap-up work by Kelly and Kopra on the audio loops.
I think it's the label is not correct, right?
Scott Kelly is in the final steps of routing the second in a series of cables down the length of the Harmony module of the International Space Station that will be used to hook up international docking adapters to be delivered in the future on SpaceX cargo ships. The spacewalk has been textbook in nature, the crew beginning it some 25 minutes ahead of schedule and running ahead of the timeline all the way through the morning. The spacewalk coming just a few hours after the launch of a Russian resupply ship, the Progress 62 cargo ship that lifted off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan 6 hours 32 minutes ago at 2:44 a.m. Central Time. Its initial checkout of its systems in great shape, having completed 2 rendezvous burns on a 2-day rendezvous in which upgraded systems will be tested and checked out by Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center prior to its docking to the Pirs docking compartment of the International Space Station on Wednesday.
Next spot.
Okay, next you're going to be...
Track this down.
Yeah, you're going to be heading zenith on node 2, and we're going to go a little further forward than you did last time. You're going to be going to 358, which is forward of that 343 where you were last time, or 344.
Okay.
And for Tim, we don't have any video right now, so can you just confirm that you have the thermal cover closed?
No, I'm sorry. I went inside and I'm cleaning up the batch. We didn't have a dedicated line to the D-bag. I'm just trying to get it forward. I should have it closed here in a couple of minutes, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. We're okay on the thermal limits. We just wanted to...
Are we hitting the clock?
Yeah, we're good on the clock.
Okay.
Okay, at the purple cable, the white purple one, handrail 344.
Okay, now I want you to go forward from that to handrail 0358.
Okay.
And you'll stow this IDA2 coil there, and we want you to bundle it nadir of the handrail itself, again, to make sure we keep out of the CBM.
Okay. So 358 is forward of 351?
Yeah, it's forward and one set zenith.
Okay. We got to undo some more of these wire ties to get the length.
The D-bag is attached in the forward portion of the crew lock.
Okay, we copy, Tim.
With one of the integral hooks from the bag.
Copy.
So it's below 351?
Yeah, it's almost in line with it.
Or it's forward of 350, I guess.
Yeah, it's actually forward of 0351. You should see 358, almost in line with it.
Yeah.
And Scott, just a heads up, we're about a minute away from a night pass.
Copy. All right, 358.
And again, we want to bundle that nadir of the handrail.
Okay. Over slack.
As Scott Kelly and Tim Kopra head into the final minutes of their spacewalk, an unplanned spacewalk that was formulated in the past 4 days to accommodate the movement of the mobile transporter rail car back onto its work site in advance of the arrival of the Progress 62 cargo ship, following the mobile transporters stalling just a few inches away from that work site last Wednesday night. The International Space Station is currently orbiting 253 statute miles above the Earth over the Caspian Sea, about to begin a northwest to southeasterly track across Iran, southern Pakistan, and back out over the eastern Arabian Sea.
Wire tie the whole cable down.
And that's good, Scott, that's good with us, yep.
Good. Thermal cover is closed.
Okay, copy that, and safer handles.
And they're down.
We copy. And Scott, once you get that bundled down, we're going to ask you for pictures since we don't have the camera views or the video views.
Okay, so just pictures of the end, not the whole thing, right? Like pictures of the bundle at the end of the...
That's affirmative, Scott. Just the bundles, and if you can, over on 344 too, if you didn't take a picture of that other bundle.
Okay. I got a flap of Vectran that's just coming off my left index finger, but there's more Vectran underneath, so should be good.
Yeah, Scott, we just want to confirm what the flap is from the gray RTV, is that correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, RTV. Yeah.
Okay, copy, thanks.
That's what I meant.
Made a few folks nervous down here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just kidding.
Year-long crew member Scott Kelly, in the final minutes of the third spacewalk he has conducted in the past several weeks. He conducted 2 spacewalks during Expedition 45 with Kjell Lindgren in late October and early November. This unplanned spacewalk involving Tim Kopra, who is in the second spacewalk of his career, the first one having been conducted in July of 2009 after he reached the International Space Station courtesy of the STS-127 mission, in which he ventured outside with Dave Wolf at that time as part of the Expedition 20 crew for a 5-hour, 32-minute spacewalk in which he and Wolf tackled several assembly tasks outside of the complex. Another spacewalk is planned in mid-January to replace a failed sequential shunt unit, which is a voltage converter unit on the truss of the International Space Station that designed to restore an 8th power channel of capability for the station. There are 8 power channels on the station, and that SSU sequential shunt unit failure several weeks ago took down the 1B, 1 Bravo power channel, leaving the station operating on 7 of 8 power channels. It has not impacted station operations, but there is a strong desire to get all 8 power channels back up and running. That will be accomplished once the next spacewalk is conducted around January 15 or 16 to replace that failed sequential shunt unit.
And my other ret is sacrificial inside for securing one of the bags.
Okay, we copy.
Got the camera with a ret. Trash bag. And what I miss? We've of course got a BRT with a ret on it.
And number of wire ties.
And I think that's it.
Number of wire ties on that BRT.
Thank you. I've got 3 wire ties. I left 1 wire tie in the stack.
Okay, that's a good inventory. Thanks, Tim. How's the Earth look?
Beautiful. Dark.
You should be passing over India about now.
Taking pictures. That's dark. You can take pictures. Yeah, again,
Said you're passing over India about now.
In fact, the International Space Station flying directly over Mumbai, India, about to pass across Sri Lanka and the southern Indian Ocean. 2 hours, 44 minutes into the spacewalk, Kelly and Kopra wrapping things up, taking inventory of their tools and tethers, soon to make their way back into the Quest airlock, where they will float inside, close the hatch behind them, and prepare for the repressurization of the airlock to mark the end of today's spacewalk.
And Scott, when you're done taking pictures, we'll get a glove and hap check from you and an inventory, and then we'll get you back to the airlock.
Okay.
Meanwhile, as Kelly and Kopra move into the final stages of today's spacewalk, the Progress 62 cargo ship has completed its first flight day of telemetry and testing, having been launched 6 hours and 45 minutes ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. 2 rendezvous burns performed nominally, and all of the telemetry and uplinking commands having been successfully completed by Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center. This Progress carrying the modified systems that are being tested on this deliberate 2-day rendezvous, systems that will be incorporated in all Progress unmanned vehicles and all piloted Soyuz vehicles in the future.
Want to make sure it's clear.
Okay.
Docking of the Progress to the Piers docking compartment on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment is on track for 4:31 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday. Kelly and Kopra tomorrow will be spending the day in a debriefing with spacewalk specialists here in Mission Control. They will begin work to test the spare sequential shunt unit that will be taken outside during a January spacewalk to ensure that it can be loaded with a new software load with cables, actually, that were flown up on the Soyuz vehicle with Tim Kopra, Tim Peake, and Yuri Malenchenko last week when they launched 5 days ago, or 6 days ago now, from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. So even as this spacewalk draws to a close, work will begin tomorrow and Wednesday on preparations for a January spacewalk that is targeted for around the January 15 or 16 time frame.
to head back.
Okay, can we get a quick inventory from you?
So my gloves. Okay, so I got the camera. Got 2 rets on it. Got my right waist tether. I got our BRT, which has 2 long wire ties on it. Also got a ret. I got a ret on the left side, ret on the right side with a pit pan. I got my trash bag. And I think that's everything.
You should have, do you have an adjustable?
And I go to the adjustable. Yep.
Okay, copy that. And on your BRT, did you only go out with 2, or did you leave 2 behind?
I left 2 behind, 2 wire ties. I went out with 2 small, 2 short, 2 long, and I have 2 long left.
Okay, we copy that. That's a good inventory, Scott. You can head back to the airlock.
Yeah.
And Scott, just one last check. Your HAP's good?
Good hat. Gloves are the same as before.
Copy all. And Tim, just for your awareness, when you see Scott coming down the Seasburg, whenever you're happy, you can open the airlock thermal cover and go ahead and ingress the airlock.
Yeah, he'll be coming around the ESP2. So when I see him, I can go and open up and get in.
Okay, copy.
I had a fair lead out here somewhere. There it is. A green hook.
Yeah, 0252.
This is Mission Control Houston, 2 hours 51 minutes into today's spacewalk. Kelly and Kopra are making their way back to the Quest airlock with all of their tools, tethers, and the bags of cable apparatus that they used, having completed the routing of the second pair of cables down the length of the Harmony module. that will be used for the future installation of international docking adapters to accommodate the arrival of U.S. commercial crew vehicles in the future.
There, a minute.
All of this spacewalk's objectives have now been completed. The major objective, the movement of the mobile transporter from a stalled position back onto its work site in the middle of the station's truss, and several get-ahead tasks that were tackled by Kelly and Kopra in swift fashion throughout the course of the morning.
Copy that. I'm going to stop at 30 when you're around the corner. Okay. Yes, that's probably going to work. You don't mind turning off your helmet lights. Probably work out better.
Okay, guys, we're back with you. We just had that short handover.
Okay. All good? Yeah, let's call it good. Okay. You see my tether? Yeah, I do. Okay. I think you can go in. Yeah, I'm plugging in. Out of your way. Okay.
And we got video again of you guys.
Cool. A little straighter. Yeah. There you go. Thanks.
Approaching the 3-hour mark into the spacewalk, this view from Tim Kopra's helmet camera. He is back inside the Quest airlock, soon to be followed by Scott Kelly. Everything having wrapped up, all the objectives of this spacewalk having been successfully completed. Once the hatch to Quest is closed, the crew will hook themselves up to umbilicals inside the crew lock section of Quest and stand by for the repressurization of the airlock that will mark the official end of today's excursion.
Okay, we see a good config. Scott, you can release EV2 safety tether from the airlock and attach to your right waist tether.
Copy.
And for Tim, you can go ahead if you'd like and remove the SEU from the stowage pouch. We would like to just do a quick inspection of it, make sure there's no water balls or ice balls or anything on it, since we had that little bit of leak. I know it came out of Scott's, but just in case yours had it too. And you can then connect that to your SCU or to your DCM.
Okay. Yeah, my SCU is clean.
Copy.
And removing your safety tether.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Scott, then you can release your safety tether from the airlock, stow on your MWS, and ingress the airlock.
Okay, let me get my waist tether good. Okay, Tim, your anchor blank hook is attached to my right waist tether.
Okay, my waist tether.
Gates closed and locked.
Sounds good. And my waist tether is attached to the D-ring extender. Gate closed, hook locked.
I'm going to take my safety tether off. And then when you have made some room, I'll come in. When you're ready for me, in other words.
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay. Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
Trying to move my feet here. I'm going to use you.
That's fine.
Make the turn.
Shoot my umbilical. Looks good.
Okay.
Probably want to get your feet on there.
Okay, I'm in. Your thermal cover.
Roger.
Tim, is there something behind me? Like that bag?
This is Mission Control Houston at the 3-hour mark into today's spacewalk. A view inside the equipment lock section of the Quest airlock. With his back to the camera, Russian cosmonaut Sergei Volkov. Right at the hatchway, peering into through the window, is European Space Agency astronaut Tim Peake, who launched just 6 days ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, along with Tim Kopra and Yuri Malenchenko, as they await Scott Kelly returning to the crew lock section of Quest, after which the hatch will be closed and the repressurization of the airlock will begin. Volkov and Peake will then open the hatch, separating them from the spacewalkers in the outermost section of Quest, and help them inside to begin the process of doffing their spacesuits. All of the work having been completed on this spacewalk that was put together over the past 4 days after the mobile transporter rail car stalled just a few inches away from its work site due to a engaged brake handle. Kelly and Kopra moved outside of the Quest airlock at the start of today's spacewalk, made quick work of releasing the brake handles on 2 crew equipment carts on both the starboard and port side of the mobile transporter rail car itself, and that enabled the robotics officer here in Mission Control to send commands that moved the transporter just a few inches back to worksite 4, where it was latched in place and electrically mated, to set the stage for the arrival of the Progress 62 cargo ships docking to the Pier's docking compartment on Wednesday at 4:31 a.m. Central Time. The Progress launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan some 7 hours ago, and is well on its way toward its rendezvous and docking to the International Space Station on Wednesday.
Very well. Be here. Like that potato chip.
And Scott, it can't be more than 5 inches, that gap. And one technique that you might try, Scott, is if you hold that Velcro strap and then push in the middle, push out in the middle, it might give you that kind of potato chip effect that causes the sides to come up.
Tim, where are my feet right now?
Your feet are forward. I can push them.
Yeah, push them aft if you can.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
And Tim, or Scott, the folks down here are saying they're happy with that configuration.
Okay.
Mike Hopkins, veteran astronaut, has served as the spacewalk communicator throughout the morning here in Mission Control. Hopkins in the blue shirt, 2 years to the day that he ventured outside the Quest airlock with Rick Mastracchio on December 21st, 2013, in the first of 2 spacewalks to replace a failed cooling pump on the outside of the station.
And for Tim, if
BD2 SU attached.
and you can go ahead and connect your SCUs when those inspections are complete.
My inspections are complete, no eyes, and I'm attached.
Okay, and the notes here for you guys, once you're attached, a TCV, your setting of 8 to max cool will minimize the time for the SCU cooling.
Thanks. The SCU land looks good.
Okay, we copy that, Scott, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see your DCM or not, but if...
Yeah, I can see it. It looks fine.
Okay, let's go ahead and connect the SCU to the DCM.
BD2s are cooling at 9.
Copy.
Tim, can you release one of those Velcro straps on this?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
got some like memory to it that's
We got
twisting it.
Can I push your foot a little bit this direction?
Okay.
Thanks.
Just kind of holding on to it here.
Okay.
Any luck?
Yeah, almost there.
Okay.
There you go.
Much better. Thanks.
Sure.
Memory. EV1's is connected.
Okay, and you guys both verified locked?
Connected. Mine is, mine's locked.
Yeah, EV2's is locked.
Okay, excellent. So we are now ready for water on your DCM going to off.
Okay, EV1 water is coming off. EV2, off.
Okay, we've got to wait 2 minutes with the water in the off before we close the hatch. So, Scott, while we're doing that, you want to just make sure, verify the outer hatch clear of any hardware.
Uh-huh.
Mike Hopkins will be handing communications chores back to Tim Peake inside the equipment lock section of the Quest airlock, who will walk the crew through the repressurization steps, and joined by Russian cosmonaut Sergei Volkov, will then open the hatch separating the two segments of the Quest airlock, they being in the equipment lock, the spacewalkers being in the outermost section called the crew lock. The hatchway between the two sections will be opened, and Peake and Volkov will work to move Kopra and Kelly back into the equipment lock so that they can be assisted in the doffing of their suits.
Got it. You got it? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and Scott, you are good. Verify the outer hatch is clear hardware. Verify the handle position as per the hatch decal, and you can close and lock the hatch.
Okay. The unlatched. Everything's clear. Tim, can you see the bottom of the hatch?
I can.
Anything sticking out?
Yes. If I can reach it.
Well, I didn't even try to close it. I'm just checking.
Yeah. You've got the SU cover and one set of the tether packs.
Seriously? Okay.
It's floating right on the edge. It may bounce out of the way once you bring it closer. And actually, if it looks down, close it, they've moved. Yeah, there you go. You're perfectly clear now. Looks great. Watch out for the SCU that's behind it. SCU cover.
Okay, I'm going to try to put it out of there. Okay, I see. Okay, thanks.
Sure. Beautiful.
Okay. Okay, hatch is closed and locked.
Okay, excellent. I show us getting into the pre-repress cue card. So if we could check again just one last time, the SCU is connected to your DCM, water switch is off, and EV hatch closed and locked.
EV1 confirms all of those.
And EV2 as well.
Okay, step 4, check that the oxygen EMU 1 and 2 valve is open on the UIA.
Both are open.
All right, on the UIA, Tim, I want you to take the power EV1 and 2 to on, O-N, and check the LEDs.
Okay, EMU 1 and 2 power is on with 2 lights.
Copy. And we're ready for EV2 as well.
I'm sorry, say again.
Okay, so you've got both EV1 and 2 power is on?
Yeah, EV1 and EV2 power is on with 2 lights.
Copy that. And volts check between 18 and 19.
18.5.
Copy that. On your DCMs, you want to take your power to SCU, and you can expect a warning tone.
Okay, power SC 1 and EV2.
Okay, gentlemen, at this point, I'm going to hand you over to Tim for the rest of the crew lock repress cue card, though before I do, I just want to say thank you to everybody up there. Great job. You turned around an EVA in 3 days, so well done. There's a lot of smiling faces down here in the front room, back room, and behind us, so thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks to you guys, and this is a team effort. We're just the guys that are really just lucky enough to be going out here, and it takes all of us to get this job done, so we much appreciate your help. And great job, Hop.
You bet, guys. Okay, Tim, over to you.
Thanks, Hopper, and welcome back, guys. Great job. On your DCMs, take your O2 actuator.
And with that, the stage is set for the start of the repressurization of the Quest airlock to wrap up today's spacewalk, which is currently 3 hours and 14 minutes in length. Tim Peake inside the equipment lock section, along with Russian cosmonaut Sergei Volkov, walking the crew through the pre-repressurization steps that will bring the Quest airlock back to 14.7 pounds per square inch of pressure and enable Volkov and Peake to open up that hatchway that separates them from the spacewalkers.
I had a two-handed this time. Yeah, overshot. Okay, I'm impressed now. Thanks.
Excellent. On your comm switch to hardline.
Am I?
This is Mission Control Houston. The repressurization of the Quest airlock is underway, signaling an end to today's spacewalk at 10:01 a.m. Central Time. The EVA concluding at 3 hours and 16 minutes for Scott Kelly and Tim Kopra. Again, spacewalk coming to an end officially at 10:01 a.m. Central Time at a mission, an EVA duration of 3 hours and 16 minutes. This is Mission Control Houston with some statistics, having seen the repressurization of the Quest airlock begin to mark the end of today's spacewalk at 3 hours and 16 minutes in duration. The spacewalk concluding at 10:01 a.m. Central Time. This was the 191st spacewalk in support of space station assembly and maintenance. The 191 spacewalks now totaling 1,195 hours and 20 minutes of spacewalking time, or an aggregate total of 49 days, 18 hours and 20 minutes of spacewalking time. For Scott Kelly, he has concluded the third spacewalk of his career with a total spacewalking duration time of 18 hours and 20 minutes, 2 spacewalks during Expedition 45, and the one today logged under Expedition 46. Again, for Scott Kelly, 3 spacewalks in his career, totaling 18 hours and 20 minutes. For Tim Kopra, this was his second spacewalk, the first having been conducted in 2009 as part of the Expedition 20 crew. Kopra now having logged 8 hours and 48 minutes of spacewalking time on his 2 spacewalks. This was the first of 2 spacewalks planned for Expedition 46, the second to take place less than a month from now in mid-January to replace a failed sequential shunt unit, a voltage regulator, on the outside of the International Space Station to restore one of the 8 power channels that distribute power for all of the station's systems.
And Houston Station on space to ground 1, we're in step 10 of the repress and a good pressure check with 0 delta in step 8.
Houston copies and concurs.
The repressurization of the Quest airlock continues on track as Tim Peake of the European Space Agency on your right and Russian cosmonaut Sergei Volkov on your left await its repressurization to 14.7 pounds per square inch behind that hatch where Kelly and Kopra are located in the crew lock section of the Quest. Once the airlock is fully repressurized, that hatch will be open, and the 2 spacewalkers will be brought back inside the equipment lock section to be assisted in the removal of their spacesuits. Again, the spacewalk having concluded just about 9 minutes ago at 10:01 a.m. Central Time, a spacewalk duration of 3 hours and 16 minutes, all of the objectives of the spacewalk having been successfully completed. And with the Quest airlock's crew lock having been repressurized, here goes the hatch. Tim Peake opening up the hatch so that he and Volkov can assist Kelly and Kopra moving back inside the equipment lock. And there goes the hatch, and there are the two spacewalkers. Having completed a 3-hour, 16-minute spacewalk in which they assisted in freeing up a stalled mobile transporter that stopped just inches away from its work site 4 days ago. It was moved back into place at worksite 4 near the center section of the station's truss to set the stage for the docking of the Progress 62 cargo ship on Wednesday. That Progress ship having launched 7.5 hours ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. You're looking at Sergei Volkov on the left in the foreground and European Space Agency astronaut Tim Peake assisting Tim Kopra. First back inside the equipment lock. He'll be positioned on the left side of the equipment lock as you're looking at it on camera. Scott Kelly is behind Kopra, still in the crew lock section with the suit bearing the red stripes. The spacewalk today lasting 3 hours and 16 minutes. In which Kelly and Kopra made swift work in releasing a pair of brake handles on crew equipment carts that flank a mobile transporter rail car on the truss of the station. One of those brake handles inadvertently moved into the locked position, preventing the mobile transporter from moving up and down the truss of the station. As a cautionary measure, this spacewalk was conceived and executed within a 4-day period to safely reposition the mobile transporter back onto what is called Worksite 4 at the center section of the truss of the International Space Station, where it was latched in place and electrically mated in advance of the arrival of a Russian Progress resupply vehicle that launched earlier today from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, and which is scheduled to dock to the Pirs docking compartment on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the station on Wednesday at 4:31 a.m. Central Time. And Scott Kelly now being moved into position on the right side of the equipment lock. Tim Peake and Sergei Volkov will assist in removing their helmets as we are in the final minutes of our coverage of today's activities that began early this morning with the launch of the Progress 62 cargo ship from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Fist bumps all the way around between Peake, Volkov, and the two spacewalkers as they breezed through a 3-hour, 16-minute spacewalk to assist in freeing up the stalled mobile transporter on the truss of the station, and then moving ahead with several get-ahead tasks, including the completion of the routing of cables down the Harmony module of the International Space Station for future installation work for international docking adapters that will accommodate U.S. commercial crew vehicles. Kopra also strung a Ethernet cable along the Unity connecting node that links the U.S. and Russian segments of the station for the future launch and arrival of a Russian laboratory module. We should be regaining our television capability from the International Space Station momentarily. We're in a handover between satellites on the tracking and data relay satellite system. As is commonplace for a post-spacewalk checklist, Tim Peake, the European Space Agency astronaut, taking detailed photos of the gloves of the two spacewalkers to document their status following the work that was conducted by Tim Kopra and Scott Kelly. Kopra on the left, Kelly on the right. Kelly having completed the third spacewalk of his career, Kopra the second of his career. The International Space Station is currently traveling 253 miles above the Earth, moving from southwest to northeast, crossing the west coast of Mexico near the border with Guatemala. This will carry the station and its 6 crew members just to the west of the Yucatan Peninsula, out over the Gulf of Mexico, and across the west coast of Florida near Apalachicola Bay. This quickly planned spacewalk coming just 4 days after the mobile transporter stalled just 4 inches away from its work site due to an engaged brake handle on one of the 2 equipment carts that flank the transporter. The execution, the start of the spacewalk, began at 6:45 a.m. Central Time, just 4 hours after the launch of the Progress resupply ship, the 62 Progress craft from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Less than 9 minutes after its launch, it reached its preliminary orbit, its solar arrays and navigational antennas deployed. It executed 2 automated rendezvous burns to begin the chase to catch up to the International Space Station. There will be a 2-day rendezvous, a deliberate 2-day rendezvous for this Progress craft as Russian flight controllers check out upgraded systems, telemetry and software systems as part of the so-called MS class of Progress and soon Soyuz vehicles that will carry crews to the International Space Station, the MS designation standing for Modified Systems. Again, this was the 191st spacewalk in support of space station assembly and maintenance that now has totaled 49 days, 18 hours and 20 minutes of spacewalking time. Scott Kelly now in his 3 spacewalks, having accrued 18 hours and 20 minutes of spacewalking time. Tim Kopra's second spacewalk brings his total to 8 hours and 48 minutes of spacewalking time. And Tim Kopra's helmet now being removed. Just 6 days ago, Kopra was en route aboard the Soyuz TMA 19M spacecraft with Tim Peake and Yuri Malenchenko heading for a docking to the International Space Station for the start of 6 months on board the complex. At that time, he would not have imagined that he would be in a different spacesuit today, executing a spacewalk that was quickly planned and executed to perfection earlier today with Scott Kelly. And Scott Kelly's helmet now off as Tim Peake and Sergei Volkov continue to work in the suit doffing procedures. The crew safely back inside the Quest airlock, suit removal underway. A 3-hour, 16-minute spacewalk having been successfully completed to reposition the mobile transporter rail car to complete a series of get-ahead tasks. This coming in advance of the arrival of the Progress resupply ship that was launched earlier today from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. So with the crew members now back inside, post-spacewalk activities underway, we will wrap up our coverage for the day with 2 programming notes. Space Station Live will resume on NASA television at its usual time on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time to bring you all of the latest on Expedition 46 crew activities. That will set the stage on Wednesday, December 23rd, for the Progress resupply ship, the ISS Progress 62 cargo craft, to arrive at the International Space Station. Our coverage on NASA TV of its docking to the Pirs docking compartment will begin at 4 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday for a docking at 4:31 a.m. Central Time. That will be the final operational activity scheduled for this year to wrap up a busy year of activities aboard the International Space Station, highlighted by the arrival of the 1-year crew, Kelly and Kornienko, on board the complex back in March, culminating with Kelly and Kopra and their spacewalk today, the 7th spacewalk by space station crew members in 2015. So with that, we'll bring our coverage to a close. It's been an eventful day for the International Space Station, the successful launch of that Progress resupply ship in the wee hours this morning. It is en route to the space station, and the spacewalk having just been completed by Kelly and Kopra to assist in the repositioning of the mobile transporter rail car. With that, we'll bid you a fond adieu for today. Please tune in tomorrow on Tuesday for Space Station Live at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and our Progress docking coverage on Wednesday morning. For now, that's it. Have a good day. This is Mission Control Houston.
Hi folks, this is Brian May and this is NASA TV, taking us out into the solar system and beyond. Rock on.
Guaranteed to blow your mind.
come to this program with different backgrounds and different experiences.
We have a chance to build upon a new launch capability for America.
We're part of a partnership, and part of the partnership is to have different abilities, and so the United States having access is extremely important to the effort.
One of the things that really gave us the opportunity to be ready for this is all those systems on the space station or on the space shuttle that we had to learn in order to be prepared for a space flight. So it really has set us up for a mindset of learning new things and being ready for whatever comes at us.
We have a huge team here at NASA, as well as the great teams at SpaceX and Boeing that we'll work with to try to make this vehicle as safe as possible.
Building that partnership, that relationship where we are shoulder to shoulder with these companies as they build this vehicle is really going to be how we're instrumental in making sure the vehicles are ready for the first flights when the time comes.
I'm honored to get the opportunity to participate with this new group and to work with a team to get us onto this next era in spaceflight.
I remember when I launched from Kennedy the first time on a U.S. space shuttle, and it was pretty amazing. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like after this long period of time to get back on a spacecraft at Kennedy and have all family and friends and people from all over the country watching. That's going to be pretty special. And so bringing back home will bring that back home to everybody here. It'll be a pretty exciting moment.
We explored to discover. First, we explored the land and sea, then the skies and space, and now other planets. NASA's journey to Mars enables us to learn about the formation and evolution of the red planet. Given its similarities to Earth, Mars is also helping us learn about our own planet's history and future. Further exploration may reveal evidence of life on Mars, answering one of our oldest questions. Is there life beyond Earth? The journey to Mars is aided by past NASA discoveries and missions, which have expanded our understanding of the solar system. One tool that led to a vast array of discoveries is the Hubble Space Telescope, one of the greatest technological achievements in our history. For 25 years, the Hubble Space Telescope has orbited 375 miles above Earth, capturing images of deep space. Images from Hubble have confirmed many scientific theories, including the existence of dark matter and black holes, and have raised new questions that push us to keep exploring. Another recent achievement was the 14th anniversary of humans living aboard the International Space Station. Since the year 2000, NASA has maintained a continuous presence on the orbiting space station. It is a unique scientific platform that enables researchers from around the world to conduct innovative experiments not possible on the ground. The research conducted on board the space station has resulted in many benefits to human life, including medical advancements in chemotherapy drug delivery and vaccine development, as well as the use of optical imagery to assess and assist with disaster relief and improving coastal water quality. Astronauts aboard the ISS continue scientific research facilitating the journey to Mars, including exploring how crews can thrive on longer missions and testing new technologies. The most iconic images of space exploration include space-suited astronauts performing spacewalks, or, in NASA speak, extravehicular activities. In 2015, NASA is recognizing 50 years of extravehicular activity, celebrating past accomplishments and exploration while looking toward the future.
Hi everyone, and welcome to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. My name is Sam, and I'm a Payload Communications Manager for the International Space Station. My job is to talk to our astronauts as they live and work in space. Today, I'm going to give you a super secret behind-the-scenes tour of our Payload Operation Integration Center, or POIC, which is our flight control room where we control most of the NASA science experiments on board the International Space Station. We have to be pretty quiet. As you can see, there are people in here working. The reason why is that we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, supporting the science experiments that our astronaut crews work on. The front views up here in the front of the room show you how we monitor what the crew is working on. You can see internal views, external views, and normally we can see the astronauts. Right now you can't, and the reason why is because our crew is asleep. Just like you and me, the astronaut crews have 8-hour sleep periods every day to make sure they get their rest and are ready to go the next day. This console right here is my Paycom console, and this is where I actually talk to the astronauts. One of the coolest parts of my job is that I get to talk with NASA astronaut Scott Kelly and Russian cosmonaut Mikhail Kornienko, who are the 2 crew members of our 1-year mission crew. That means they're going to live in space for twice as long as all of our other astronauts do. The reason that they're up there is so that we can learn how the human body adapts to long-duration life without gravity. And this information that we get, the science we get back from this crew, is going to help prepare us to move on to Mars and beyond in the future.
The Curiosity rover landed on the surface of Mars on August 6, 2012. Unlike earlier rovers, Curiosity carries equipment to gather and process samples of rocks and soil, distributing them to onboard test chambers inside analytical instruments. Analysis of the first drilled sample provided the geological and mineralogical evidence of conditions favorable for life in Mars' early history. As the Curiosity rover continues to explore the surface, it will investigate further details on the past and current environments of Mars. NASA is also building a new human spacecraft that will usher in a new era of space exploration. Drawing from more than 50 years of spaceflight research and development, the Orion spacecraft is designed to meet the evolving needs of our nation's deep space exploration program for decades to come. It will be the safest, most advanced spacecraft ever built, and it will be flexible and capable enough to take us to a variety of destinations, including Mars. In December 2014, Orion completed its first successful flight test, yielding millions of elements of data to provide unique insight into how to improve the spacecraft's design so that it can safely send astronauts to Mars and back.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt Pruitt, and I'm a manufacturing engineer here at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. Today, we're going to take a look at a very important piece of hardware. You guys are probably familiar with the Orion spacecraft. The Orion spacecraft is what NASA's going to use to send men and women into outer space for exploration missions. Well, here at NASA Marshall, we have the heat shield from that spacecraft that flew back in December of 2014, the EFT-1 mission. We've had the heat shield for about a month here in our 7-axis milling machine facility, and you can see the 7-axis milling machine there. It's the very tall blue structure, and it's capable of removing very small amounts of materials very precisely, and that was very important for a piece of hardware that's as important as the heat shield, you can see here. So the heat shield during re-entry was exposed to about 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and that was as the atmosphere was rushing around the heat shield. It got very hot, and protecting the crew and hardware of the space capsule from the heat of re-entry is very important, and that's what this piece of hardware did. That's why you see the black coloration at different locations on the heat shield. The reason you don't see it everywhere is because we're about halfway done with the job of removing this material and preparing these samples, which is what the squares and rectangles are, for testing out at NASA Ames and NASA Johnson, which are 2 other NASA centers. They'll be performing thermal and structural tests of this material to see whether or not it's in fact the best material for the job.
Carrying the Orion capsule to space will be NASA's Space Launch System, or SLS, an advanced launch vehicle that will be the most powerful rocket in history. The SLS is a deep space vehicle capable of extending our reach into the solar system. With unrivaled life and cargo capacity, NASA will launch people and payloads farther into space than ever before.
Hi, my name is Peter Ma, and this is the Space Launch System rocket. One of my responsibilities with NASA is the mass properties engineer of the core stage, which is this segment right here of the launch vehicle. It's important that we understand the mass properties of the rocket in order to ensure that it sits safely on the launch pad as well as flying into orbit. Once we have the design of the rocket well defined, then we use advanced and rare manufacturing tools like the robotic weld tool to bring the components into shape. Right now we're at the Marshall Welding and Manufacturing Center, and we're about to enter the high bay, where we keep some of our weld tools as well as some other neat hardware. Let's have a look. So what we have here is the robotic weld tool. One of the neat capabilities of this tool is its ability to mold and shape itself around the hardware that it is manufacturing or welding. This allows NASA to make schedule and cost savings prior to and during manufacturing of flight hardware. Now this is the vertical weld tool. We bring barrel sections here where it is welded into a complete assembly. Unlike traditional heat welding that you may be familiar with, we use friction stir welding. Now the difference with friction stir welding is we use shear pressure and force to join the bonds together to create something that's much stronger and more reliable for space use. It's tools like these that are incredibly important in our construction of the SLS rocket as we pursue our journey to Mars.
NASA's journey to Mars seeks to answer some of humanity's fundamental questions about life beyond Earth. Was Mars home to microbial life? Is it today? What can it teach us about life on Earth or life elsewhere in the cosmos? Could it be a safe home for humans one day? Right now, robotic scientific explorers are paving the way, and humans are preparing for the first human expedition to Mars. Robotic and human exploration of Mars will enable new scientific discoveries and create new frontiers in the exploration of our solar system.
Ну, наверное, это история из моего детства, когда мы жили в семье военного, летчика военного, который занимался спасением и поиском первых космонавтов. Это были 60-е годы, и прилетая с поиска, он приносил с собой всякие разные сувениры. И, конечно, это на меня очень повлияло. Сувениров, то это примерно то же самое, что сейчас. Это бортовые рационы питания летчики, там космонавты летчикам дарили. Парашюты разовые были, такие очень красивого цвета, оранжевого. И отец привозил такие отрезы, как бы ткани. Мама шила из них себе юбки, очень красивые. У меня один кусочек вот такого парашюта, он до сих пор лежит, и это как святыня с тех пор. Вот примерно так. То есть осталось, конечно, очень хорошие, добрые воспоминания из детства, но они переросли в ответственность и в желание сделать работу хорошо. Я российский космонавт Михаил Корниенко. Очень рад был всех вас видеть. Спасибо за внимание.
I'm Bethany Ellman, MSL scientist. We're here in the JPL Mars yard, and this is your Curiosity rover report. Curiosity is now roving through the Bagnall Dune Field on Lower Mount Sharp. This huge field of sand dunes stands between the rover and the higher levels of the mountain. Sand dunes form as wind bounces sand grains across the ground. Dunes are common on Earth, but this is the first investigation of an active sand field on another planet. Here are pictures from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's HiRISE camera. The dunes have migrated up to a few meters. This has been seen from orbit over the last few years. Investigating the dunes lets us test the physics of what we understand about how they move. Will they be different, considering that the Mars atmosphere is less than 1% as thick as Earth's, and the gravity is only a third that of Earth's? The Bagnall dunes are made from basaltic minerals, including olivine and pyroxene, which give them their dark color. We also see from orbit that the winds are sorting minerals in the dunes, and perhaps separating the olivine from other minerals. Recently, engineers performed mobility tests at a sand patch near one of the large dunes in the Bagnall field to evaluate the performance of the rover. This is important because Curiosity has easily gone up and over some sands, but has been challenged by others. Once Curiosity is near the Bagnall dunes, it will reach out and scoop some of the sands. We want to understand how sands of different grain sizes may have different mineralogies and chemistries, so we'll pass the sands into the Curiosity's instruments, Chemin and Sam. As a quick demo, the rover will bring in portion of sand into its handling system, shake the sample up, and the rover does something similar with its sample handling system on the rover arm. What we've previously been able to analyze on Mars is this fine grain fraction. What we'll be able to get this time is a coarser grain fraction to see if it's different chemically or mineralogically. This first part of the Bagnall Dune campaign will take Curiosity into the new year. After driving for a few months around more of the dune field, we'll make a final stop at a less active dune on our way up Mount Sharp. I'm Bethany Ellman, and this has been your Curiosity Rover Report. Check back soon for more updates.
As farmers and winemakers, we work very hard to grow the best quality fruit possible to make the best wines possible. The real polished part of winemaking is letting that wine age gracefully so those flavors can be preserved and brought to your home and to enjoy in the glass. The greatest issues we face as winemakers is that our optimal storage conditions for our wines are also optimal growth conditions for mold and bacteria.
Mold is really bad in a barrel room or in a cellar because it has an odor to it. And the wines are a living, breathing thing. And actually, they pick up the characters of where they're living.
The wines can absorb that aroma, and it's just not a healthy environment to work in. My father and I built this barrel room underground. The challenge is we've got some stagnant air which can cause mold growth. Who knew that our solution would be not underground, but up in the sky?
In order to carry astronauts to Mars for deep space exploration, you have to be able to grow your food storage. You don't have enough space and capacity to carry them with you. So NASA began experimenting with growing crops in space. What they found is that in the growing chambers on the International Space Station, the crops they were growing were emitting a naturally occurring hormone called ethylene. It's a gas, and ethylene is the reason that fruits and vegetables ripen.
But the problem was in space we're going to have a very confined environment, so the ethylene concentration can build up, especially in a plant growth chamber. It basically destroys the plant. And so there was a need to grow plants in space, and we were good at growing plants here at the University of Wisconsin. And so NASA came to us and said, we've got a problem. I think you've got a solution. Can you help us?
Through the University of Wisconsin Advanced Astroculture Program, they developed an ethylene removal system that was successfully tested on a number of missions on the International Space Station. So the ethylene removal system that was developed draws air through a reaction chamber. The air is passed across a catalyst bed, and that catalyst has the effect of removing anything organic from the air. That includes mycotoxins, bacteria, viruses, and even mold.
It showed us that with the right technology, we can overcome the challenges of growing plants in space and enable future space explorers to grow their own food as they continue to explore the solar system.
The International Space Station program not only supports the technology that allowed us to get rid of ethylene in the Space Station Astroculture program, But it also provides a great variety of technologies to exist that otherwise wouldn't have been possible.
Realizing that this technology could have tremendous benefits here on Earth, we developed the Aeroside air purification systems. Initially used in the perishables world for prolonging the shelf life of fruits and vegetables, not long after that, we realized because of the effects the technology has on mold, that the wine industry was a perfect complement for the technology.
This technology has been a real boon to us. It helps me sleep better at night.
But as you can see around the cellar, there's not a lot of mold.
Within 24 hours, the amount of airborne mold spores were dramatically reduced.
Within 2 weeks, about 99.9% of the mold had vanished on the walls.
It solves problems before they occur.
The room smelled fresher. It actually enhances your storage conditions for you to even make better wine.
It's really amazing when you think about all the innovations that are going on up in space, how they can come into a place as unexpected as a winery, which translates into benefits on your dinner table.
NASA is on a journey to Mars, and we're on the lookout for a new generation of space pioneers. Do you think you have what it takes to join NASA's next astronaut class? Then I want you to apply for NASA's astronaut program. Learn more at nasa.gov.
Third Rock Radio, America's space station. Its ongoing mission: explore new worlds of music. Tell the story of those who fly, build, and dream. Rock radio from space. Streaming live from thirdrockradio.net.
EP1 copies. EP2 copies.
All right, gentlemen, let's go to work. Tim, you can go to lab handrail 251 via the ESP2, and Scott, you're good to go up the CETA spur to the starboard CETA cart.
Okay, sounds good.
And with those cautionary warnings from Spacewalk communicator Mike Hopkins here in Mission Control, Kelly and Kopra now about to make their way to the mobile transporter, which is located at the centermost section of the station's truss, just starboard of the S0 truss, where the mobile transporter stalled back on Wednesday night, just 4 inches away from its latching position at worksite 4. The two spacewalkers in the early minutes of a previously unplanned spacewalk are currently 253 miles above the Earth, moving from southwest to northeast across the eastern Pacific.
Okay, you want to translate on the seated cart, Tim? I'm off the seated cart.
Okay, I'll be there in a minute. Thank you. Okay, I've got the large hook on 0251.
Okay, we copy that, Tim. So the next thing will be a fair lead on the port lab strut handrail with an adjustable.
Well, it's moving now. Did it twice. I think that fixed it. That was pretty easy. Yeah. I think to do the nadir part, it might require me to translate on the seated cart. Go and look at the zenith side. Okay, I am done and clear, and the nadir wheel bogies look the same as the zenith.
Okay, we copy, Scott. That sounds great. So, Tim, whenever you get over there, if you want to assess the cart motion in the forward and aft direction, and then once that's done, we'll get you to release the brake pedal.
Scott Kelly will continue the work that he began to route power cables down the Harmony module. In all, about 62 feet and 8 inches of a white and purple cable and 71 feet of a yellow cable are to be routed and played out all the way down the Destiny Laboratory and the Harmony module to where international docking adapters will be attached in the future. On the last EVA, or spacewalk, back in early November, Kelly played out 40 feet of the 62 feet and change of the white-purple cable. The yellow cable was not deployed at all, so he'll be working on that throughout the course of the next hour or so, while Tim Kopra will be routing an Ethernet cable from the Unity module
adjustable, grabbing the true lock back
down to PMA1, or pressurized mating adapter number 1.
I'll just hang here until you're...
The mobile transporter reported fully latched at 7:35 a.m. Central Time.
Okay. Yeah, you can go.
The robotics officer now will send commands for the electrical mating of the mobile transporter to the electrical systems at worksite 4.
I think it'll four-man fair lead. I think it'll keep it out of your way.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Just over 2 hours into today's spacewalk, a good view of Scott Kelly with the orbital ATK Cygnus resupply ship just over his head. That Cygnus attached to the Earth-facing port of the Unity module of the International Space Station following its successful launch.
You have a recommended translation path?
I'm sorry, say again, Tim?
You have a recommended translation path?
Kind of the way you went, Tim, already?
Yeah, I just want to cover your line.
Oh, yeah. Well, as long as you go back... Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I think as long as you go to that bag and then leave before I get back to the bag.
Yeah.
Having completed a 3-hour, 16-minute spacewalk in which they assisted in freeing up a stalled mobile transporter that stopped just inches away from its work site 4 days ago, it was moved back into place at worksite 4 near the center section of the station's truss to set the stage for the docking of the Progress 62 cargo ship on Wednesday. That Progress ship having launched 7.5 hours ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Inside 30 seconds. First umbilical has now been retracted. Standing by for main engine start. The main engine start has been initiated. This will be a 3-step fashion to bring the turbo pumps on the first stage up to flight speed. 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 60-second Progress Resupply vehicle from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, headed on a 2-day rendezvous to test upgraded systems en route to the International Space Station. All the first stage engines reported to be functioning normally by the blockhouse in Baikonur 40 seconds into the flight. Vehicle stabilization is reported to be normal. About 1 minute into the flight, the Soyuz booster and the Progress Resupply vehicle will go through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. Pitch, roll, and yaw, everything looking good on the vehicle. Passing now through maximum dynamic pressure, going supersonic. 1 minute, 18 seconds into the flight. Liftoff time, right on time at 2:44 and 39 seconds a.m. Central Time, 2:44 and 39 seconds p.m. in Baikonur.
We usually go in for every lunch, but they didn't have anything in there last time.
Yeah, we'll agree with cutoff time.
But now it's full. Very full. Very full.
Welcome kind of back to some of you that maybe have been here in the past.
we're not going to spend a lot of time here today because what you're really here to see is what has taken place on 0B or 0A with Virginia Space, and then Orbital ATK and the efforts that they've gone through in basically getting Antares back up and getting it ready to go.
Probably looks better than it's ever looked. It's new valving throughout, new actuators, What's the full farm damage in the
Minimally. We lost a little bit of the fire suppression piping.
Get that down to about minus 260, 280.
Where are you going to take them? So we're at the, oh my god, why? And I was like, it's not, it's not. I was
Welcome aboard the International Space Station. I'm Scott Kelly, along with my Expedition 46 crew members, Tim Kopra and Tim Peake, and we have a message for all of you for the holidays.
First off, we'd like to say what a privilege it is to serve on this International Space Station and how grateful we are to the teams on the ground that support our flying here, as well as all the science that's on board this laboratory.
Christmas is traditionally a time for friends and families to get together, and although we can't be with our friends and families this year, we'll be orbiting the Earth 16 times on Christmas Day and sending all our good wishes to everybody back down on our beautiful planet Earth.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year from the International Space Station.
EP1 copies.
EP2 copies.
All right, gentlemen, let's go to work. Tim, you can go to lab handrail 251 via the ESP2, and Scott, you're good to go up the CETA spur to the starboard CETA cart.
Okay, sounds good.
And with those cautionary warnings from spacewalk communicator Mike Hopkins here in Mission Control, Kelly and Kopra now about to make their way to the mobile transporter, which is located at the centermost section of the station's truss, just starboard of the S0 truss, where the mobile transporter stalled back on Wednesday night, just 4 inches away from its latching position at worksite 4. The two spacewalkers in the early minutes of a previously unplanned spacewalk are currently 253 miles above the Earth, moving from southwest to northeast across the eastern Pacific.
Okay, you want to translate on the CETA cart, Tim? I'm off the CETA cart.
Okay, I'll be there in a minute. Thank you. Okay, I've got the large hook on 0251.
Okay, we copy that, Tim. So the next thing will be a fair lead on the Port Lab strut handrail with an adjustable.
Well, it's moving now. Did it twice. I think that fixed it. That was pretty easy. Yeah. I think to do the nadir part, it might require me to translate on the CETA cart. Go and look at the zenith side. Okay, I am done and clear, and the nadir wheel bogies look the same as the zenith.
Okay, we copy, Scott. That sounds great. So, Tim, whenever you get over there, if you want to assess the cart motion in the forward and aft direction, and then once that's done, we'll get you to release the brake pedal.
Scott Kelly will continue the work that he began to route power cables down the Harmony module. In all, about 62 feet and 8 inches of a white and purple cable and 71 feet of a yellow cable are to be routed and played out all the way down the Destiny Laboratory and the Harmony module to where international docking adapters will be attached in the future. On the last EVA, or spacewalk, back in early November, Kelly played out 40 feet of the 62 feet and change of the white-purple cable. The yellow cable was not deployed at all, so he'll be working on that throughout the course of the next hour or so, while Tim Kopra will be routing an Ethernet cable from the Unity module
Adjustable, grabbing the crew lock back.
Down to PMA1, or pressurized mating adapter number 1.
I'll just hang here until you're...
The mobile transporter reported fully latched at 7:35 a.m. Central Time.
Okay. Yeah, you can go.
The robotics officer now will send commands for the electrical mating of the mobile transporter to the electrical systems at worksite 4.
I think it'll four-man fair lead. I think it'll keep it out of your way.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Just over 2 hours into today's spacewalk, a good view of Scott Kelly with the orbital ATK Cygnus resupply ship just over his head. That Cygnus attached to the Earth-facing port of the Unity module of the International Space Station following its successful launch.
You have a recommended translation path?
I'm sorry, say again, Tim?
You have a recommended translation path?
Kind of the way you went, Tim, already?
Yeah, I just want to cover your line.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Well, as long as you go back... Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I think as long as you go to that bag and then leave before I get back to the bag.
Yeah.
Having completed a 3-hour, 16-minute spacewalk in which they assisted in freeing up a stalled mobile transporter that stopped just inches away from its work site 4 days ago. It was moved back into place at worksite 4 near the center section of the station's truss to set the stage for the docking of the Progress 62 cargo ship on Wednesday. That Progress ship having launched 7.5 hours ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Inside 30 seconds. First umbilical has now been retracted. Standing by for main engine start. The main engine start has been initiated. This will be a 3-step fashion to bring the turbo pumps on the first stage up to flight speed. 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 60-second Progress Resupply vehicle from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, headed on a 2-day rendezvous to test upgraded systems en route to the International Space Station. All the first stage engines reported to be functioning normally by the blockhouse in Baikonur 40 seconds into the flight. Vehicle stabilization is reported to be normal. About 1 minute into the flight, the Soyuz booster and the Progress Resupply vehicle will go through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. Pitch, roll, and yaw, everything looking good on the vehicle. Passing now through maximum dynamic pressure, going supersonic. 1 minute, 18 seconds into the flight. Liftoff time, right on time at 2:44 and 39 seconds a.m. Central Time, 2:44 and 39 seconds p.m. in Baikonur.
We usually go in for every lunch, but they didn't have anything in there last time.
Yeah, we'll agree with the cutoff time.
But now it's full. Very full. Very full.
Welcome kind of back to some of you that maybe have been here in the past. we're not going to spend a lot of time here today because what you're really here to see is what has taken place on 0B or 0A with Virginia Space, and then orbital ATK and the efforts that they've gone through in basically getting Antares back up and getting it ready to go.
Probably looks better than it's ever looked. It's new valving throughout, new actuators, kind of.
What's the fuel farm damage in the mishap?
Minimally, we lost a little bit of the fire suppression piping.
Get that down to about minus 260, 280.
Where are you waiting to take them? So we're at the, oh my god, why? And I was like, it's not, it's not. I was
Welcome aboard the International Space Station. I'm Scott Kelly, along with my Expedition 46 crew members, Tim Kopra and Tim Peake, and we have a message for all of you for the holidays.
First off, we'd like to say what a privilege it is to serve on this International Space Station and how grateful we are to the teams on the ground that support our flying here, as well as all the science that's on board this laboratory.
Christmas is traditionally a time for friends and families to get together, and although we can't be with our friends and families this year, we'll be orbiting the Earth 16 times on Christmas Day and sending all our good wishes to everybody back down on our beautiful planet Earth.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year from the International Space Station.
EP1 copies. EP2 copies.
All right, gentlemen, let's go to work. Tim, you can go to lab handrail 251 via the ESP2, and Scott, you're good to go up the CETA spur to the starboard CETA cart.
Okay, sounds good.
And with those cautionary warnings from spacewalk communicator Mike Hopkins here in Mission Control, Kelly and Kopra now about to make their way to the mobile transporter, which is located at the centermost section of the station's truss, just starboard of the S0 truss, where the mobile transporter stalled back on Wednesday night, just 4 inches away from its latching position at worksite 4. The two spacewalkers in the early minutes of a previously unplanned spacewalk are currently 253 miles above the Earth, moving from southwest to northeast across the eastern Pacific.
Okay, you want to translate on the CETA cart, Tim? I'm off the CETA cart.
Okay, I'll be there in a minute. Thank you. Okay, I've got the large hook on 0251.
Okay, we copy that, Tim. So the next thing will be a fair lead on the port lab strut handrail with an adjustable.
Well, it's moving now. Did it twice. I think that fixed it. That was pretty easy. Yeah. I think to do the nadir part, it might require me to translate on the CETA card. Yeah, go and look at the zenith side. Okay, I am done and clear, and the nadir wheel bogies look the same as the zenith.
Okay, we copy, Scott. That sounds great. So, Tim, whenever you get over there, if you want to assess the cart motion in the forward and aft direction, and then once that's done, we'll get you to release the brake pedal.
Scott Kelly will continue the work that he began to route power cables down the Harmony module. In all, about 62 feet and 8 inches of a white and purple cable and 71 feet of a yellow cable are to be routed and played out all the way down the Destiny Laboratory and the Harmony module to where international docking adapters will be attached in the future. On the last EVA, or spacewalk, back in early November, Kelly played out 40 feet of the 62 feet and change of the white-purple cable. The yellow cable was not deployed at all, so he'll be working on that throughout the course of the next hour or so, while Tim Kopra will be routing an Ethernet cable from the Unity module
adjustable, grabbing the crew lock back
down to PMA1, or pressurized mating adapter number 1.
I'll just hang here until you're...
The mobile transporter reported fully latched at 7:35 a.m. Central Time.
Okay. Yeah, you can go.
The robotics officer now will send commands for the electrical mating of the mobile transporter to the electrical systems at worksite 4.
I think it'll four-man fair lead. I think it'll keep it out of your way.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Just over 2 hours into today's spacewalk, a good view of Scott Kelly with the orbital ATK Cygnus resupply ship just over his head. That Cygnus attached to the Earth-facing port of the Unity module of the International Space Station following its successful launch.
You have a recommended translation path?
I'm sorry, say again, Tim?
You have a recommended translation path?
Kind of the way you went, Tim, already?
Yeah, I just want to cover your line.
Oh, yeah. Well, as long as you go back... Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I think as long as you go to that bag and then leave before I get back to the bag.
Yeah.
Having completed a 3-hour, 16-minute spacewalk in which they assisted in freeing up a stalled mobile transporter that stopped just inches away from its work site 4 days ago. It was moved back into place at worksite 4 near the center section of the station's truss to set the stage for the docking of the Progress 62 cargo ship on Wednesday. That Progress ship having launched 7.5 hours ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Inside 30 seconds. First umbilical has now been retracted. Standing by for main engine start. The main engine start has been initiated. This will be a 3-step fashion to bring the turbo pumps on the first stage up to flight speed. 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 60-second Progress Resupply vehicle from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, headed on a 2-day rendezvous to test upgraded systems en route to the International Space Station. All the first stage engines reported to be functioning normally by the blockhouse in Baikonur 40 seconds into the flight. Vehicle stabilization is reported to be normal. About 1 minute into the flight, the Soyuz booster and the Progress Resupply vehicle will go through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. Pitch, roll, and yaw, everything looking good on the vehicle. Passing now through maximum dynamic pressure, going supersonic. 1 minute, 18 seconds into the flight. Liftoff time, right on time at 2:44 and 39 seconds a.m. Central Time, 2:44 and 39 seconds p.m. in Baikonur.
Yeah, they're local. We usually go in for every lunch, but they didn't have anything in there last time.
Yeah, we'll agree with the cutoff time.
But now it's full. Very full. Very full.
Welcome kind of back to some of you that maybe have been here in the past. we're not going to spend a lot of time here today because what you're really here to see is what has taken place on 0B or 0A with Virginia Space, and then orbital ATK and the efforts that they've gone through in basically getting Antares back up and getting it ready to go.
Probably looks better than it's ever looked. It's new valving throughout, new actuators, kind of.
What's the full farm damage in this house?
Minimally, we lost a little bit of the fire suppression piping.
Get that down to about minus 260, 280.
Where are you going to take them? So we're at the, oh my god, why? And I was like, it's not, it's not. I was like,